Reclaim the streets. Manus was at a smoke-in in Bushy Park in Dublin on the 4th of May. It wasn't widely publicised, or at least Manus would never have heard of it, except through Jan, who knew about all these things, from anti-war to smoke-ins to reclaim the streets. Jan was a student, into protesting against the injustices of this world. Manus liked that about her. She cared that much of the world lived in unnecessary poverty and hardship, while she enjoyed food, shelter and security. Manus cared about these things too. He hadn't taken part in any formal protest, but he figured a lot of his life's decisions had been some sort of protest against the world system that made no sense. Against the world system that dictated thousands of people should die of hunger each night for the simple reason that there was no profit in feeding them. While close to half the world's food production got destroyed each day to maintain corporate prices and profits. But now he was going out onto the streets with placards. The first protest he went to with Jan was against the war that was happening in Afghanistan at the time. Manus was against the richest country in the world bombing the poorest country in the world. And it seemed like a good thing to do, standing outside the American embassy shouting, "Food, not bombs," and "George Bush, we know you. Your daddy was a killer too." There didn't seem to be many people protesting against the war. Manus couldn't watch the telly much, but he knew the picture was portrayed like America the brave, free, good, and Afghanistan the fundamentalist religious nuts. They were living behind the times, and America was going to liberate them into the new age, where their lives would be enriched by television and fast food. The protest seemed fairly pointless in the face of such media coverage. Manus felt a bit of a fool, but he walked around in a circle outside the embassy and jostled playfully with Jan. They went to an anti-Sellafield protest. That was a bit more fun. It was a bigger gathering too. And they marched through the streets and held up traffic and put black plastic bags over their clothes. And there was a clown and a bit of theatre enactments of what it will be like if Sellafield has an accident, and the people started to drop on the streets. It was a fun gathering, a happening event. Then there was the protest about what Israel is doing in Palestine. There was clowns there too, and theatre of a kind, with people dressed up as soldiers with rifles, keeping a crowd of kids prisoners. The atmosphere was a little heavy. Some people present had family in Palestine. But as always, most people just felt better for having expressed their discontent, and then they went home. The smoke-in at Bushy Park was good too. Beautiful sunny day. Bushy Park's a lovely park with water and trees and bushes, and a lovely little amphitheatre with a bit of a bandstand at the bottom. People sat playing drums and whistles. It was a good sound. There was flags and placards proclaiming holy smoke. Pamphlets warned about the soap cake that was flooding the market, how it's mixed with bitumen and all kinds of shit. Manus buzzed walking through the people sat in the grass smoking spliffs in the bright sunlight. There was 4 guards there, but they seemed to be leaving people alone. Then one of the guards turned out to be a wanker. He started going about taking joints off people. He came over to Manus. Manus was sat down at the time, sifting seeds out of his herbs so he could roll another spliff, and good-naturedly got up to talk with the guard when the guard indicated his desire to communicate verbally. Manus figured it had to be a laugh of some kind, talking to a guard while rolling a spliff. The guard kept motioning that Manus should follow him, and anything to oblige, Manus followed the man behind the bandstand. At this point, no one could see them, and the guard seemed to think this an apt opportunity to exert his authority. "Come here," the guard said. "What for?" Manus said, exerting his own authority. As far as Manus was concerned, the guard was being foolish. What way did the man think? Manus could have slapped the guard. It would have been slightly foolish, but the man was stupid. He was deliberately provoking a situation. "I want to search you under the Misuse of Drugs Act," said the guard. Manus laughed and turned and danced off with the music back into the crowd. He half stalled to see if the guard would try to give chase. Would have been funny. Catch me if you can. But the guard didn't give chase. He didn't give up either. He kept going around taking joints off people. He tried to pull some kid off. A man shouted, and the crowd caught on and shouted too. The guard tried to soldier on through the crowd's jeering, but when they started shouting, "Wanker! Wanker!" the poor man had to radio through for backup. "Help, please! They're calling me a wanker!" Some more guards arrived, and Manus and Jan went home, back to where Manus lived in Dundalk's Mahevna Moor. Sunday they stayed in bed a lot, and then played guitar and had a bit of an argument over a misunderstanding. Then went for a walk to clear the air, and they found a green field with trees, and they fucked against a tree for a bit, until their legs were weak and the endorphins and dopamines flooded their brains, and they felt good about themselves and the world around them. Then they sat and talked and smoked cigarettes. They talked about their grandparents. On her mother's side, Jan's grandfather had been a blue shirt and well-to-do, and her family now lived in the house he had built. On Manus's mother's side, his grandfather was a Lithuanian Jew. And on Manus's father's side, Manus's grandfather had disowned his son's widow and her brood and put their home up for sale as soon as his son died. Personal histories. The next day was Monday the 6th, the day of the Reclaim the Streets march. And Manus would have liked to go, but Jan didn't. She had exams coming up. He never wanted her to leave. She left around 8:30 and then got off the bus again to stay another night. They got drunk in a bar watching snooker, then bought brandy and staggered off up to Ladywell Shrine, where they fucked on the tarmac. Funny fuck, with him on the bottom and her just pulling her pants down enough to fit him in. Sweet stuff. They didn't go to the Reclaim the Streets march, but in their own little way, they did their bit to at least reclaim Ladywell Shrine.